Our first presenter is somebody who provokes your consciousness by taking you into a journey into the unseen and the unknown, the traces of where something or somebody has been. His work may be familiar to a lot of you. He's showed his work across the different countries in the world. He's a dear friend and a wonderful artist. May I welcome our first speaker for this evening, Bala.
Thank you, Rahul. And thanks for everyone. I did the presentation here about 2 years ago, I guess, and it's wonderful to be back here. And in between, I have been here not as a presenter, but just as a viewer. And I always enjoyed coming here. Maybe this is my 4th month, I guess. And so I'm going to start my work presentation now. Most of the people saw the last presentation. They may see some overlap, but I thought still I should show because there may be some new people here. So there are a series of work I did to capture the trace as a subject. So these are the cast from my body. It's almost like trying to capture the presence in the body. So these are not sculpted one, but these are the cast of myself. And the whole series of works are about like casting the self, at the same time capturing the thumb impression and making into like large canvases like 5 feet by 10 feet or 12 feet. Then capturing the trace of a fire. Like this drawing is just made of burnt mark from the fire. So what you see there may be like 8 seconds and this would be like 1 or 2 seconds. So it's nothing but just fire marks on the paper. This is again rope was kept in the paper and just capturing the trace. And the whole series of work is about how our reality is constructed with something happened, but something behind there is giving an idea about what happened. So it's all about like, instead of working about traces, just the work itself is nothing but trace. This is 24 hours of burning. So what you see here, like this end to that end is like 24 hours of captured trace of fire. Since it's only 7 minutes, I'm going to just run through it very quickly. So this is a series of work. It's mostly, rather than an answer, it's more about questioning something. It's like how we try to perceive our reality through our senses, but we all know that our senses are so limited. But still, that constant process of the mind, trying to understand everything through the senses. So my question is that how, through the limited senses, how can we understand the real, which is like perception is just one side, but how could we understand the whole as a whole? So these works are just more about questioning the perception. This is called Light Makes Dark. This is a captured suit from the lamp. Just changing the context of the object. This is plastic straw. This work is done in 98, 99. So just put the straw together and create a sculpture. This work, unfortunately, we're not able to see it clearly. It's a phase which is a negative sculpture, but since it's white on white, the projector also doesn't have a color correction, I guess. I'm not able to see it. Can we color correct it a little, slightly darker? Sorry about that. You can even reduce a little more. think that's enough. Still you can't see it, that's okay. So here, the face part is negative sculpture inside the wall, but the eye has a limitation of understanding the real spaces. Like if you remove the context, if you just see the concave, it can appear as a convex also. And if you put the convex, it will appear as a concave. So this is a negative sculpture. It's digged in the wall, but it just almost looked like it's coming out. I call them in but out. Again, cast of my face. This work is from 2002, using the architecture as a part of the work. And I always think that how we create these walls as a second skin, then give a meaning for the spaces. So it's almost like trying to pull that skin. Some of the works are more poetic than approaching or questioning about the real. Sometime when I do the work, I just reapproach it again after like few years. So this is same work, the same subject. I approached it like 3 years later because the first one had like, it's coming out of the wall almost like 6 or 7 inches. But skin has this, pulling or pushing from the flesh. So I just did it like a very little, like this is just 2 inches fiberglass on the wall. This is one of the recent pieces again, like much later, with the gap of 7 years. This is shown in Max Muller Bhavan last week. And again, all these are fiberglass things, and then pasted on the wall, then do the putty work and make it look like it's the wall as a second skin. Detail. So in this series of work, most of the work happened around the work, not in the work, because the work is just a small piece. Then merging that making the work disappear into the wall is the most interesting part. This was shown in Delhi, untitled. This is a found object just resting on the wall, and when you go closer, this is the detail. In but out, but full cast of the body. And this slide, I show all the time because, for me, the fascinating thing is that how we construct our reality to, through perception. But like, for example, if I'm moving this hand in the space, this moved. But if I'm walking in the floor, you can see the foot impression. But when this hand moves in the space, there is nothing we could capture here, but it moved, we all know. So there is no trace exists, like when the bird is flying, we know that it flew, but there is nothing we can share at this moment, maybe like 100 or 200 years later, they may find a way to, like the way how the forensic science has developed, maybe they can see the path, how it flew, but right now, this invisible, where, like it basically traces to perception. And now my question is that, when it moves, there is something behind which we can't identify. So, the question about capturing invisible came in this period while I was thinking about this scene, whenever the bird fly, and slowly that made me do this work, where the left one is made of evaporating compound. So slowly the sculpture like dissolve, when the air goes into that small slit, in between the pedestal and the container, slowly that eats the sculpture, and the sculpture will become crystal, and slowly the crystal will become air. So this is almost like if someone says sculpture, it won't be sculpture. If someone say portrait, it will not be a portrait. If someone say visible, it will not be visible. And even if they say, I don't get his work, it's also not true, because it's in the air and it's just they inhale it. So it's part of the process. This is in Delhi now with the really tight container, so still surviving. This is the first day. This is maybe after a few weeks I took, but right now it is even more dense. So that made me to do this work where the sculpture goes from one form to the other. So this is the first day of the sculpture. This is after like 15, 20 days. So one sculpture will become the other one over a period of time. This gave me more, faith and hope to move or inquire about, those kind of, like talking about invisible, more hope to talk about invisibles. So slowly the work moved into capturing the other existing, instead of imaginary spaces, these are like existing spaces. For example, if that light, if I'm showing this hand here, this will produce a shadow there. Imagine, if you have a sun there, if I keep the hand here, this will project a shadow there. But when we look at each other, we don't see the shadow passing in the space. We know that it is, with the little piece of paper, we always know that, the shadow exists here. But this, we can't touch it, and we are not even seeing it. But this space is slightly darker than this space. So the whole effort is like, just I put the light, then try to capture the shadow of that wooden stool. So this is what came out. So this effort of capturing invisible made me to do the other series of work. This is called shadow of a shadow of a shadow. Because the moment we bring this unseen space into a visible object, it will have all the characteristic of the, the visible world. So then throwing the light again. So the second sculpture, the first one is the shadow of a corrugated box. Then second one is the shadow space of the shadow. Then the third one is the shadow of a shadow of a shadow. So if you look at carefully, you can see the second and third are more closer. You can see the dark space becomes a solid object there. This work is again shown in Max Muller last week. And when you see the top, there is one light is on, then the other one is off. And the title of the work is called Dark Light. Because the whole idea is again, questioning about what or how much we see. So if you look at it closely, you just get to see only one nail. And if you look at the previous light, that light is turned off. But still, if you go closer, the shadow exists. So there is a kind of, playing this, questioning, how much really, we see. So the light is not on, but still the shadow is there. The shadow is just a graphite drawing on the wall. It's called Dark Light. It's a proposal I gave for Guggenheim for their 50th anniversary about the path of the light. When the light passes through the space, the light and the other space, like imagine in a dark room, the roof has a small hole, the sunlight passes through. And that kind of I argue that, sometimes we don't see light. For example, in the night sky. Thank you. Okay. Oh, good. In the night sky, if you look at the moon, it's nothing but the reflection of the sunlight. So that means even around the moon, the sunlight exists, but it's just that we don't see. The same way in the dark room, when we see the path of sunlight, it's just nothing but the floating dust particle is reflecting. And if the room has no light, no dust at all, then we don't see where the light passes. So basically what I'm saying that the origin we can see or where it is bouncing we can see. But as the light as it is, we don't see. So not just light, light, gravity, air, all those things. So this is all about this is called gravity. Some of the works are more poetic and some of the works are just talking about the actual energies. So this work is just a floating hook from one corner to the other. It's about the magnetic field, because the magnet is behind the wall, which is just pulling this hook and make it floating in the middle of the air. That led me to do this work. This is called energy field, again magnet and rust. I'm rushing because just one more minute is there. This work is called breath. It's a false wall with the two holes on the same height of my nostril.